Welcome to e-learning with Rosa Media Productions.
Oh, Google Docs. Google Docs has been an absolutely wonderful thing that Mr. Rosa has taught us.
Technology integration is only effective with adequate professional development.
I'm Cliff Rosa, teacher turned video entrepreneur, where I approach using video for your school or your business, speaking from the heart of a teacher. Hi there, and welcome to the Rosa Media Productions webcast. I'm Cliff Rosa, and on this show we focus on promotional and instructional video content to grow your online presence. And on this webcast, I particularly use the same setup that I recommend and set up at schools and for entrepreneurs who want to get into webcasting. So, with that, I am going to cut to the chase. We've got a special guest today. We actually have the winner of our June giveaway is Mr. C.J. Hunt, and he's actually a local entrepreneur. I'll introduce him on the interview that I did, on a Skype interview, but he's just 90 minutes away in Palm Springs, and I want to share with you this conversation that I got to have with CJ regarding his upcoming webcast. So with that, we'll go ahead and cut to the interview. Okay, so my guest today is the winner of the drawing for the Starter Webcasting Kit. He is broadcast journalist CJ Hunt with over 20 years experience in broadcasting, voiceovers, television, and live events. He is the author of 2 books on diet and health and was the producer and host of the documentary The Perfect Human Diet, which you can find at theperfecthumandiet.us. CJ, welcome to the Rosa Media Productions webcast.
Thanks, Cliff. It's great to be here, and it's fun to be the winner.
Yeah. Did you expect that you might win the starter kit, actually?
Well, it had been a little while, so I thought that I hadn't, So to get that email the other day, it was a nice surprise, It's the timing's great because, as we'll discuss, I want to start a webcast sometime later in the year, once I'm done with the companion book to the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, hopefully the starter kit will be a good asset as you get into that. Now,
I think it's perfect.
I wanted to give you a chance to talk about your website and business and kind of what are you hoping to see happen with your webcast. So why don't you tell us about that a little bit?
Okay, well, the website, you can go to perfecthumandiet.com, or like Cliff said, theperfecthumandiet.us.com is usually easier for people.
Oh, okay.
They all feed in. But I'm the producer and host of a documentary that came out officially in end of 2012, beginning of 2013, primarily in the video on demand space, on iTunes and Amazon and all that. And nicely enough, thanks to a couple of bloggers, out of here, Nikki, that's my rescue dog.
Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah, he's a cutie. And thanks to some bloggers who said, "Hey, it's here, take a look," and much like you do in your world, they help move everything along, and we hit #1 in the USA and Canada in 2 categories: documentary and independent film. And a week or so later on Amazon VOD, same thing, we hit #1, which was completely unexpected.
Wow.
And and it was up there for about a week. And then it changes, it's like Amazon Books, that they're real time, and once they announce the Oscars, I disappear. So everyone starts looking for those movies. Well, yeah, it was a wonderful surprise, and I think it's really doing a good service for people because we explore human evolution to find out, what we were eating as we got stronger and faster and smarter. And we went and spoke with anthropologists and instead of just the regular normal registered dietitian kind of thing, and tripped upon some unexpected treasures along the way, and some some new technology that can tell us things that were previously unknowable, and it was really a breakthrough. So, and that's really kind of the peak of the film before we go into the practical parts. So yeah, it was a great adventure. It was a lot of fun in relationship to webcasting, and that it's a new development because over the course of the last year since the film has been out, I started getting a lot of viewer emails just wanting a little more of an understanding of what the doctors in the film were saying, or what were the foods that were ideally suited to humans and what weren't, that kind of a thing. And I would normally refer them out to the subject matter experts, but it kept coming. And then, interestingly enough, I went to a small town in Missouri, Canton, Missouri, right off the banks of the Mississippi, for a screening. And after the screening was over, there was a couple that had traveled over 100 miles to come to this screening.
Really?
And yeah, an older couple, and the lady took my hand and we chatted and stuff. And she identified with some of the health issues that I had had when I was younger. And she said, seeing this gives me hope that I can feel better. So it was really moving. So I thought, well, I know I wanted to stay just a journalist and hands off and let everybody else just tell their story and let viewers make up their own mind. But I think there's an opportunity here to become more of an advocate still in a journalistic, professional way, in not a diet guru way, and help answer those questions and bring forward new information, because I'm still in touch with these first-person subject matter experts. They're out in the field, they're in the trenches, really doing the work, and so I think there's another way to give back to helping people find better health and wellness. So that's this whole webcasting is part of that changeover to becoming more service-oriented to the audience, and so I'm excited about it, because it seems like a really good, clear way to start helping to share the message and start helping develop an audience, because this is all new territory for me. So I'm having to do like what you're doing and others is learn how to build a platform online, other than just the film website, and start having a conversation,
Right.
I'm still not a Twitter guy. So,
well, it makes me think about how, what you're doing is you've tapped into a need that people feel to feel better, with their diet and so forth, and you've had enough touches with actual users, as it were, of your movie viewers, that are interested in more. And so what you're doing is you're providing a focal point for them for that community. It's kind of like a community that's waiting to happen, in a sense. And you're just providing a focal point for that conversation and resources to be collected, a place for that to take place.
Right, exactly, because in this field anyway, when it comes to diet and health, is that there's a lot of contradictions and confusion because of that, over what's right to eat and what's not right to eat and that kind of thing. So we wanted to put forward a new resource based on the science and this previously unknowable science that came out of the documentary, that takes a very different perspective than most dietary advice that you'll hear, out there that's conventional wisdom. So yeah, there's that. And nicely enough, just a few days ago, at the same time I heard from you, Morgan James Publishing signed me as an author.
Is that right?
That's the same. Yeah. So they're gonna bring out the book. I'd been working on the book anyway and planning on self-publishing it, and then reached out to them when I saw Jeff Walker's launch recently.
Yeah.
And said, hey, I see a division of yours does TV and stuff. Are they still doing that? And then they wrote back and said, well, send us something. So that's how it started. So nicely enough, you're showing up at a great time. They're showing up at a great time, and hopefully we'll be able to help a lot of folks.
Yeah. Well, the key there would be, in your the writing, in your printed matter that's going to go out, you just want to make sure you have links that are going to be persistent, that folks can go back to, find their way back to your community, your home-based platform, no matter what. So, with your URL, that should probably be the key to do that, because they
Yeah, and I'm a novice, so that's great advice.
well, and they say that the books are almost become like kind of calling cards, or business cards to really join into the community and into other engagement or deeper engagement with you, the author. So that's it's Dan Miller always talks about that with his books.
Yeah, I'm just learning about all these guys too, and they're great resources to learn from.
Yeah. I've read a lot, listened to a lot of podcasts, and really very much am still in the learning space myself, frankly. In fact, my own platform's got a huge amount of, just about everything that I do is really through relationships still at the place that I'm at in my business growth. So now, let me see here. I wanted to ask you some specifics about your webcast, because this is, my webcast is actually almost a proof of concept type of show, because I'm trying to convince folks, hey, if you have a webcast, you might consider this kind of setup. So what have you thought about the platform, those kinds of things, how you're going to try to push out your show on whether that's a YouTube or what have you?
Well, thus far, since I'm just learning about it, I'm still in the kind of gathering phase. But from what I see, there is, as you say, YouTube and possibly Vimeo. I'm not sure. I know they carry the film, and and iTunes, I know does podcasting, but I haven't discovered whether or not they do the webcasting yet. At this point, I haven't fully developed that. It's still in the idea stage and how to bring it forward. But one of the things that really intrigued me about meeting you the way we've met is eventually I know that I'd like to have more of a professional studio set up with, better lighting and perhaps a backdrop and those kinds of things. And, much like we've seen some of the other book launches and stuff used, so that you have basically a whiteboard that helps you focus on the people that are there and what they're sharing with you, and also gives you a place where you can put information if you need to. Yeah, along those lines is what it's feeling like at the moment.
Yeah, the having well, one of the things that I've actually done with my my studio setup that I market to schools is, and I, as I had mentioned in some of our emails, I base that around Telestream's product Wirecast. And the nice thing about it is you can use fairly inexpensive webcams. They're HD quality. They just need good lighting to make them show up nicely. But you can actually be switching between like a close-up and then a broader view, and be able to bring in that picture-in-picture kind of look, as it were. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah, no, that's it makes it more interesting for the viewer when you're able to do that. I think just like regular television, although that's really changing fast now too. I mean, in the early days when I did some news, probably before half of your audience was born. But all we had was a little square box over our shoulder, where they might insert a picture or whatnot, and we didn't, and maybe a little, some kind of information on the bottom of the screen there, and, a lower third is what we'd call it, right?
Yeah.
And but now it's so sophisticated. I mean, they've got timelines running live that are different stories than what you're listening and watching to, and it's much more like a computer interface, so it's interesting.
Yeah, and those, and you could probably achieve something like that, but it would probably you would need some other folks around to help run it, and you probably want to start with something, simpler with
Absolutely, yeah.
having all those balls in the air. It requires more brains than, to be able to pay attention to this part and that part, and
Oh, sure. Even when I was in the news, I just had to sit at the desk and talk, right? There were a lot of other people, doing everything else. And
yeah.
and also for what you and I do, it makes me wonder if then that becomes a distraction instead of keeping it focused to, the message that you're trying to share with folks.
Well, that's a good point.
So yeah.
And it sounds like actually you've read Jeff Walker's book Launch, and one of the things he talks about in there is having just the simple copy of the, let's say when he's throwing out the line to try to start engaging and helping people to buy into what's coming up, the anticipation, the pre-launch he calls it.
Right.
He basically says it's a very simple email, and there's one link, and that one link takes you to a very simple survey with 2 questions, and there's no other links, and even the buying page when he talks about, you take people to the long form, sales letter, and there's just the only link possible is the one that when you're going to buy the item. And
It's just one decision.
yeah,
right
keeping
there.
people focused is a big deal. And I actually think about that when I'm working with my clients and we talk about call to actions and things like that, because my tendency actually, and I think many people say, oh, we could do this and we could do this over here. But okay, try to focus. As the business person, you try to focus, because certainly our potential audience and customers they're very in a state of distraction most of the time. So.
Oh yeah. It's I haven't memorized everybody's name yet, but a fellow that Michael Hyatt was interviewing, who has Story Brand or Storyline, that kind of thing, says it's
Miller.
not that people, are stupid. Oh, Donald Miller. Okay, but it's just they're busy. So you leading them through those kinds of steps helps them, get to making a decision. It helps them make a yes or a no, right?
Yeah.
So, and I thought that was nice to hear that because sometimes when you see these things, I'm old school the way I grew up. It's kind of like, well, what do they think, I'm dumb? But no, it's just I think, and I'm not used to, except recently, being inundated by the media and inundated with emails and things like that. Mind you, well, maybe when I was a little younger than you are, there were no ATMs, there were no cell phones, so we weren't hit with all that time. There was no email. You actually had to wait for something to come in the mail, and have a lot more patience. So to me, I think it's really a wonderful time, for the generations that are growing up now, and to be able to work with each other like what you're doing. But there is so much now, just as you say, keeping it simple seems to be the best way to go. Otherwise, people just kind of, oh, that's too much for me. It's like they're asking me to read too much. This is 5 pages long.
Keeping the attention span, keeping the content appropriate for the attention span of your target market, as it were.
Well, yes. Well, in fact, even the book, the companion book, I was told, well, 200 pages max, 250 if you have to, because the audiences are different now. That they want it shorter and sweeter and more to the point, and they don't want to, at least for this kind of book, at least for how to and non-fiction kind of thing. So, and that's direct from the publishers, right? And so they would know better than I.
Well, they've got their finger on the pulse of the market, in general, and probably in their niche too. So, so you are thinking about trying to put together kind of a studio situation there at your home, then?
Right. Either here or eventually, if I had a separate little space, you know, whether that be in a guest room or a little, you know, if I'm able to sell enough movies to afford a little, extra little building space or something. But otherwise, yeah, I would have to do it here. I'd have to do like what you do. I saw in one of your videos about you draping a studio and setting up a studio with light kits and 3 camera and all that for, I guess it was a
It
school.
was a school.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it was great to see you do that because I've only seen that stuff on an official set where it was really easy to do. And but to see that you could do it in an office space like this it is good news.
Yeah, that particular room was actually a fairly large room, but we used a little more than a 10 by 10 space to set up the studio, and I had the ability to use the whole room, but I think that one ended up being about a 12 by 12, and we came off the wall a little bit. But I usually tell folks that they could work in a probably a 10 by 10 space, not too difficult. And if you think about that, that's that's not a very big bedroom. If you're talking about a guest bedroom or something like that. Yeah, though I was setting up a webcasting studio for that's a grades 3 through 6 school in that particular video, and the most expensive thing in there was the actual the iMac that was driving it, and actually it cost probably 7/10 of the cost was actually the computer, and the rest of it used amateur lighting and the webcams. And teacher that's running it's really turning out some nice videos with those 6th graders and then the other students. So neat. I'm actually going to be releasing an interview with him this coming Friday. Kind of a, hey, how was the first 6 months? And he shares some insights and things.
Oh, great. Yeah. And how wonderful for the kids.
Yeah. He said that they started with 10, basically volunteer. They had to write an application to get into the program. But then those first 10 kids, they did a few weeks. I think it was in 2-week cycles, maybe a month cycle. Anyway, I'll have to go back and listen to my interview. But basically, then they would train the next set of kids. And then they would train, and they had 66th graders go through that that system. Not a huge school. And you think about all those kids getting that experience, just neat. That's a testament to Mark's ability to organize, and also the school vision that they had for it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next, because they've got plans to expand it.
Yes, they'll probably put us to shame.
Well, I in some ways I think they already have, but I say that oftentimes with folks. I'll help them get started with something, kind of teach them the basics, and then with their creativity, their particular skill set, they'll go in a direction and with an application that I would not have thought of, or just had never taken the time to go that far with it, and often wow me when I come back. Wow, that is great. Can I write that idea down? It's happened over and over with me. So, well, this is great. I have a question. CJ, coming from the professional media, the background, and you've kind of spoken to this already, but what was it that made you say, you know what, I'm going to try to do a webcast, which is, well, it doesn't have to be amateur, but it is more amateur space.
Well, the technology that's available now, and people like yourself are taking advantage of that as a way to, do an outreach, and you can do it inexpensively. It's well, like shooting the film and whatnot, it took a lot of fundraising, and it took a couple of years of fundraising to finish post-production, and all of that. So this is a lot easier to obtain and create. Like we're talking now, we're talking on computers that we would normally have anyway. You don't have to go out and buy something special. Nicely enough, winning the kit takes care of the sound and the camera and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, you saved me a shopping trip, that's for sure. And it'll come in, and it'll come in really handy. It just helps accelerate the learning curve, because as I told you in our emails, I'm not a tech guy. I'm more on the creative writing end and that kind of thing, and so it's a great help. So I think that it's that we can do it now, and you can go around the world if people are interested in your subject, really, really easily. I mean, in the same way with the film, the fact that it went out on video on demand and it started in 6 countries that were English-speaking countries, and then you get we were eventually able to expand, and now after a year it's worldwide on a couple of different platforms, and and with subtitles and all that stuff. And it's pretty amazing that can happen, because of course with any show or with any film or anything like, or a book for that matter, I'm sure that getting distribution through normal channels is tough. And then also you have to sometimes mold your vision and your message to the way they are traditionally used to outputting that message. And this lets you do it the way you want to do it. This lets you be authentic, and so I think those are big attractions, and timeliness is you can ramp up and get on it really quickly, and that's often important, in these days to kind of try to get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, well, I hear that, being timely. Well, that's great input. I suspected the budget might have something to do with it. I mean, the costs, the curve and the costs go like this when you start to go from 2 different stages of professionally edited and produced. All those people and expertise costs money.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how expensive it can be, but yeah, this makes it possible, pretty easily. You could go mow lawns if you had to when I was a kid, and still manage to pull this together. Yeah, that was it's just really wonderful that this is available, because you're right. Otherwise you're cost out of trying to help people sometimes.
Oh yeah, definitely cost out, and the agility that you can go with if you approach it in an agile way. You say, what, this is hitting the news. Let me do a capture here, and I've got a message I want to send out to my people. The blogging space and the this kind of independent, lightweight production can allow for that sort of thing. So, well, cool.
Because of services like you, though, it doesn't have to look cheesy. I guess a lot of people are used to it, but people with bad lighting, they have good sound, that makes it, the people who they're trying to share with struggle to understand them, things like that. I don't think those things should happen, but they're quite common, and maybe that's part of what helps make you distinctive and set you apart, is that with a little bit of effort and a little guidance such as yours, you can easily create a very professional environment yourself.
Yeah. Well, one of the ideas that I'm toying with is a kind of a 2-day workshop on helping folks that are wanting to start making their own videos, but they want a little instruction. to do like kind of a 2-day workshop and have some hands-on experience, even get to use some of my actually I could probably do it around the webcasting space, but I was actually thinking more in the I'm promo video with my pro gear that I have. Anyway, one of the pieces that I thought, hey, well, I'll need to develop this because the 7 deadly sins of video, bad lighting, bad sound, bad framing, and
That's right. I worked really hard to try to get you the right background here without too much reflection or anything.
Yeah, well, actually, and you did a great job, and you've got your movie poster in the background there.
Yes,
you
I
did a
thought
nice
that was
job.
booked. I thought, well, how convenient.
Yeah, so you planned that sort of, and it was kind of already in place for you to capture it that way.
Well, this is my desk. I'm at my desk in my office, and if I tilt up any more, you'll see the ceiling fans turning around. It'll make it crazy.
Yeah.
So that was a little tricky. But because I'm in Palm Springs and it's hot, so.
Oh yeah, you got to have those fans running. Well, so Brett, while we're wrapping up here, how could people get more of C.J. Hunt and the Perfect Human Diet?
Well, the easiest way right now is to go to the website, perfecthumandiet.com, or perfecthumandiet.us. They both will go to the same place. There you can see our trailer, which is, I think people will get a kick out of, and a little bit more about the film. And within a month or so, the website will change as well, where we'll start talking about the upcoming book. We're changing the whole theme and upgrading it for the new direction that we're going. But it's a friend helping me kind of thing too. It's the same kind of thing where someone such as yourself that has a certain technical expertise that I don't have, luckily enough, that's an old friend. When he has time, he's helping me kind of piece it together. So, but anyway, that's a long answer to your question. It's just go to the website. It's the easiest place. And if they want to see it for some reason, if they're on Amazon Prime, they can see it for free. It's available, on video on demand. I guess some of the rentals are really inexpensive, a couple bucks. And, if they want to purchase, it's, I don't know, $9 or $10 now, maybe some places. If you want HD, I guess it's a little higher. But so it's easy to find, easy to get, really affordable. And I think people would find it, even if they don't want to change what they're doing, because I don't try to sell anybody, I think they would find it really interesting, these new sciences that we've come across.
Yeah, okay. CJ, thanks for taking time out of your schedule today, and I hope that the webcasting starter kit is going to be a real asset for you. And anyway, we'll be interested to see what happens with the Perfect Human Diet, perfecthumandiet.com. All right.
Well, thanks so much, Cliff. I really appreciate it, and your kindness, and having the contest and the setup. That's great.
Absolutely. And so all the best.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, well, thank you for that interview, Mr. Hunt, and I just want to invite everyone that you could go and get more about Mr. C.J. Hunt's upcoming book, as well as the movie, The Perfect Human Diet, at theperfecthumandiet.com. So, wish him all the best with his upcoming webcast, and actually, I'll plan on touching base with him after the webcasting kit arrives, see if he needs any help or guidance on getting that set up. At this point, though, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our show. I just want to invite you to head over to my website if you would like to get more of this content, rosamediaproductions.com. You can subscribe to get updates, as well as more of this type of content about getting started with webcasting and video production as in the entrepreneurial or educational space. All right, with that, wish you well. Bye-bye. Thank you for investing your time with Rosa Media Productions e-learning. I'm Cliff Rosa, encouraging and empowering you to make your impact on the world with media.